previewing week 0 of the 2024 college football season, plus QB news and other notes from across the country on Good Morning College Football. Hello and welcome to episode 85 of Good Morning College Football from campus2canton.com. I am Nicholas Ian Allen of CFB Winning Edge and Campus to Canton. Thank you for joining us so much today. We are going to be discussing week 0 of the 2024 college football season, which kicks off in just one day. As we record, we are little over 24 hours until Florida State and Georgia Tech take the field in Dublin, Ireland, and get started this, what we expect to be an excellent college football season. It's going to be very different, of course, with so much discussion about the expanded playoff. I'm going to be learning a lot about that process, as we've discussed a lot in our team previews earlier this year. I'm still, kind of figuring out how to project, who's going to make it in, how many teams from each conference, all that good stuff, but not going to overthink it. Not going to get that far ahead of things, because let's just enjoy having college football back, and a couple of really interesting matchups in week 0. The headliner, of course, that Florida State Georgia Tech game, but also Nevada and SMU, another matchup of two FBS teams. We've got one of the top FCS teams in college football, Montana State, traveling to New Mexico, where the Bobcats are actually a pretty heavy favorite against the FBS opponent. Hawaii will be taking on Delaware State. And then 3 FCS versus FCS matchups as well that we'll give some projections on today also. But first and foremost, thank you very much for tuning in to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing and also liking this video. And then, of course, thank you if you are a member at campus2canton.com. You can join for as little as $2.99 per month, get access to a wide range of tools, written content on the site. We've got a ton of data, projections, rankings for college fantasy football, for best balls on Underdog, and also stat projections, player projections, all sorts of great stuff, rankings. There's tons of information to use for your waiver wire throughout the course of the season. Also, of course, Devi content, C2C content as well, and a lot of news coming out also. So some, shorter blurbs highlighting some camp news, injury reports, depth chart news, all that good stuff, also available at campus2canton.com. We do have a wide range of tiers, including, the NIL tier, which gets certain access. Also, everyone who's a member gets access to the Discord community, but there are, different tiers and different channels available. The NIL channels are very active right now. A lot of discussion, kind of really getting in depth on certain players and projections and some betting insight if that's what you're into. We also, of course, have the C2C Winning Edge tier, and the All 22 tier, which have their own C2C Winning Edge tier channels. That's where our projections go each week. Our game projections, which we'll talk about today, but those are released on Tuesday of each week, as well as our individual player stat projections. Again, we'll be talking about them today, but they've been out there for a few days now. And of course, if you want access to all of the data and information from CFB Winning Edge, our team profiles, our returning production database, our stat projections, all of that is available to C2C Winning Edge and all 22 tier members as well. So now that that's out of the way, let's discuss a little bit of fall news before we dig into our week 0 preview. It's a little bit of a different setup. We're moving away from the team previews. We did the top 34 teams in our CFB Winning Edge team strength power rankings, and now we get to talk about actual games, which is super exciting. But a few pieces of news and notes. There's some late running back transfers in college football. We've discussed the hit to the position depth-wise at Texas with the loss of C.J. Baxter for the season. True freshman Christian Clark also out for the year. That leaves Jaden Blue as the heavy favorite to be the top running back. Should see a pretty heavy workload for the Longhorns this season. Trey Wisner projected as that number 2 running back, and then Jarrett Gibson was the only other scholarship running back, true freshman, on the roster. And there were, still are, I suppose, some players available in the transfer portal, and one has found his way to Austin. Belton Gardner formerly began his career at Kansas, but most recently was at SMU. And Gardner is making the move, going to add some depth to that running back position at Texas. Not sure how much he will factor in early on, very late addition to the roster. But for a Texas team that comes in number 5 in our team strength power rankings, certainly has plans to make it back to the college football playoff, challenge for an SEC championship in the first season in that new league. Adding some depth as late as it is, certainly a positive, it would seem. Also, there had been some sort of reports and rumors that former USC and Houston running back Brandon Campbell may be headed to UMass, but only recently was I able to find something official that mentioned Campbell as having made his way to join the Minutemen, and very late in fall camp as well, just about a week before UMass takes on Eastern Michigan, its future MAC rival. Campbell has joined the team. So he is, again, going to probably take a bit to get acclimated to his new surroundings. But Brandon Campbell, somebody who entered with high expectations. I mean, 89.36 in his 247 sports composite rating, 5.8 rivals rating, 89.38 on 3. So certainly the highest rated running back in the room for the Minutemen, according to our numbers. But it might take a little while. Jalen John likely to be the top ball carrier early on. Western Michigan transfer CJ Hester is our number 2 projected UMass running back, but Campbell, certainly a very talented player, certainly has a resume, as a high school recruit, and then certainly has played at a high level at USC and Houston. So you would think that he will factor into that running back situation at UMass. There are a couple of other, or one other roster note, roster piece of information of note, I should say. South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer confirmed this week that Amari Huggins-Bruce, who had transferred to South Carolina from Louisville, is no longer part of the program. The expectations are that Huggins-Bruce will return to Louisville, and there's a little bit of uncertainty potentially. I do believe I saw that he's enrolled in classes there, but not officially on the roster, with the transfer portal being closed officially, the window being closed. I'm not sure how that will impact whether or not or when Huggins-Bruce would be eligible. He did, of course, play previously at Louisville, and so maybe there's something I'm not aware of if you return to your original program that might make him eligible to move outside of the window. I'm not sure. So this is a situation we're just going to have to sit back and watch. In our team profiles, we use purple as our color code to indicate status unknown. And so we have removed Huggins-Bruce from the South Carolina team profile page. Have not yet added him to the Louisville page, but once we hear whether or not he's going to be available this season at Louisville, and if he is, we'll of course add him to that team page. At Iowa, head coach Kirk Ferentz has been suspended for the Hawkeyes Week 1 matchup with Illinois State due to a recruiting violation reportedly tied to quarterback Cade McNamara, who was officially named the starting quarterback of the Hawkeyes just yesterday, Thursday. Nothing new, I suppose. We've seen some head coach suspensions recently. Of course, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan last season. But Kirk Ferentz not going to be available Week 1, not going to be on the sidelines for the Hawkeyes as they take on FCS opponent Illinois State. A couple of other quarterbacks who officially got the nod include true freshman Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. Not a surprise, even though Heinrich Haarberg was technically the returning starter for the Cornhuskers, having made 8 starts so far in his career with Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, the highly rated 5-star quarterback, played his last season at Buford High School in Georgia. Was expected to become the first true freshman to start this 2024 season. He wasn't actually the first announced, as we discussed. Danny O'Neill at San Diego State got the nod officially a couple of days prior, but Raiola, as expected, will be in charge of the Cornhuskers offense for their Week 1 matchup against UTEP. So certainly an opportunity to elevate this Cornhuskers program, trying to get over the hump, get back to a bowl game. Head coach Matt Rule has a track record of turning around programs, and Nebraska has been, of course, stuck a little bit in recent years, struggling to regain its winning ways of years past, and certainly one of the best, greatest histories in college football. So long way to go still, but a lot of high expectations for Nebraska to take a big step forward this year. Our projections seemingly a little bit lower on the Cornhuskers than most, but should definitely be an exciting season. And if Raiola is as good as expected, then I would not be surprised if our numbers very quickly rise and Nebraska really becomes a dangerous team in the Big Ten. Elsewhere, at Southern Miss, Tate Rodemaker, who was previously at Florida State, got the start last season for the Seminoles late after the injury to Jordan Travis, transferred to Southern Miss and was in a bit of a battle there for that top spot on the depth chart, but will officially take that first snap in Week 1. And then ULM, General Booty, the transfer from Oklahoma, was officially named the starter this week as well. Some others out there, I'm sure, but of note here, and the biggest, I guess, potentially most impactful, especially thinking long term, is that news that Dylan Raiola is officially going to get the Week 1 start as a true freshman at Nebraska. All right, let's now turn our attention to Week 0. As mentioned before, there are 7 games on the slate. 2 of them involve 2 FBS programs, Florida State and Georgia Tech being the headliner, being the first game to kick off at noon Eastern time in the U.S. on Saturday. Others sprinkled out throughout the day. This is a great opportunity, I think, to put your eyes on a team or 2 or 3 that maybe on a normal college football Saturday might overlook. I know plenty of you out there are like me, have as many games as possible on multiple screens going at one time. And that in itself can be difficult to track, but if you're a normal person, you maybe only watch one game at a time, your favorite team. And so you might miss, watching New Mexico on a normal college football Saturday, or Nevada or Hawaii. If you don't usually stay up late to catch the Rainbow Warriors, you would have to do that this Saturday since they kick off at midnight Eastern. But those teams, I think week 0 is very, very helpful to, for me personally, put my eyes on, these programs that rank pretty low in our projections that probably are going to be overlooked unless they are playing on a Thursday night, Friday night, something like that. National TV, Mountain West matchup, something. It's very likely that my top attention isn't going to be paid to a team like New Mexico or Nevada most weeks. The Lobos 128th in our team strength ratings, Nevada 124th, Hawaii 127. I do my very best to see Hawaii each week, and they are, especially playing at home, usually have that window to themselves. So do get to see the Rainbow Warriors maybe a little bit more than the others. But good look at SMU, top 15 in our preseason team strength ratings, as we discussed in our SMU preview. We are higher on the Mustangs than just about anybody else. Florida State, top 10 team, number 10, I believe, in the AP poll, number 7 in our team strength power ratings. Georgia Tech, 58th, but I think that there's a real chance that the Yellow Jackets should have one of the most exciting offenses in the ACC, a lot returning from last season. So on that note, let's start with Florida State and Georgia Tech first. According to the odds makers, the Seminoles are favored by 10.5 coming into this game. The total 55.5. Our team strength projections, I was a little bit surprised when the number first came out, because there's been not intending to make a pun here, but a little bit of buzz about Georgia Tech, maybe making this a very, very competitive game. I know in our Campus to Canton CFF Slack, there's been some discussion that maybe the Yellow Jackets might actually have an opportunity to pull off the upset, especially with all of the roster turnover for the Seminoles. New quarterback DJ Uiagalelei having transferred in from Oregon State. Of course, prior to that at Clemson. There's new faces in the running back room. Roydell Williams expected to start and be the top ball carrier, according to most. Started his career first 4 seasons at Alabama. Malik Benson, also an Alabama transfer, expected to be that top target for the Seminoles. There's a lot to like as far as how this team stacks up on paper. There's a lot of excitement about the Florida State defense among those close to the program. But anytime you're relying heavily on the transfer portal, and that FSU depth chart officially had 5 first-year transfers listed as starters on offense and 3 on defense. So there's been a lot of success. Mike Norvell and his coaching staff have had, done a great job, just as good, if not better, than maybe anybody else out there, taking transfers and immediately putting them in a position to be successful and productive players for the Seminoles. So I was a little surprised that we actually had FSU projected to cover as a double-digit favorite. Our numbers, if you followed our team strength projections over the last 5 or 6 years, however long we've been doing this, we do tend to, I think, side on underdogs more often than not. In our team strength numbers, we've done some tweaking here and there, actually, to try to do a better job projecting favorites. So I do pay, closer attention when we are on the favorite, especially in a conference game, when teams are a little bit more evenly matched than we might see, some of the non-conference games we'll see in week zero have some pretty big projected point spreads, that SMU Nevada game specifically. And in the past, I felt like we'd been too heavy, maybe prior to 2022 or so, too heavy on underdogs, especially early in the season. So this got my attention, and I know that there's plenty of excitement around Georgia Tech. Quarterback Haynes King, running back Jamal Hayes, wide receiver Eric Singleton, Malik Rutherford, all those guys are back. 4 out of 5 starters on the offensive line, even though 3 of them are actually listed as starters on the depth chart, but still a lot of experience on the offensive side of the ball. Number 7 in returning production. There is an injury of note that we learned. Head coach Britt Key earlier this week said tight end Brett Seether, who was the projected tight end to start, projected starter for the Jackets this year, is going to miss the season with a knee injury. So former wide receiver, actually, when we built our team profiles and updated our 2024 numbers, was listed as a wide receiver on the team roster. Avery Boyd is now slotted in as the starting tight end. That, to me, a little bit interesting, as someone who certainly you would expect going to be on the high end of athleticism for a tight end, listed at 6'2", 232. So as a pass catcher, should be potentially a weapon for the Yellow Jackets. As a blocker, don't be surprised if we see Jackson Hawes, the 6'5", 255 transfer from Yale, who's listed as that number 2 tight end on the depth chart and in our projected starting lineup and 2 deep projections in our team profiles. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him quite a bit as well, especially when Georgia Tech is in running situations. But the Jackets, look pretty good on paper as well. Roster strength wise and our talent edge projections, Florida State does definitely have an edge. Our talent edge projections, based on some updates over the week, did sneak just into that 10.5. 10.71 is our current projected talent edge. So we actually have Florida State expected to cover there. That's pretty rare, for this week in particular. But for the grand scheme in our projections, it's not that often that our talent edge projection, will, in a conference game, will reach double digits. And then our PrSM model, our stats only model, it's the opposite of the talent edge, where we look only at how these teams stack up on paper. The PrSM model is how do these teams stack up on the field only, statistically speaking. So we throw out all the talent information, throw out all the coaching ratings. And in that, Florida State has an even bigger edge, nearly 18. We have the Seminoles favored by almost 18 in that week 1 projection. So even though officially, when we released these on Tuesday, we did not meet the criteria where all 3 projection models, favor one side over the other, or all fall on the same side of that point spread listed by the odds makers. But now it is at this 10.5 number. Florida State is, expected to cover, projected to cover in our projections, in our team strength rating, our talent edge model, and our PrSM model. So that is a scenario that really means a lot to me as well. When we have all 3 agree on a projection, I make a note in our official projection document. And when it's all 3 agree on a favorite to cover, especially a favorite to cover double digits, that I pay a lot of attention to as well. That's a pretty rare situation for us. So even though I personally, opinion wise, think that Georgia Tech is going to be able to keep this game close, our numbers see a little bit of a different story. See the Florida State winning this game by about 2 touchdowns. So we are slightly over the 55.5 as well. Our projected total there is 57.76. Next game, Montana State, which is number 3 in our FCS projections. And on that note, we do have FCS approximated team strength ratings, roster strength ratings and PrSM ratings. We don't have the infrastructure currently to do our full roster strength, team profiles based roster strength, individual player ratings that build up into those roster strength ratings. We don't have official FCS team performance ratings or head coach ratings. So as a result, again, these are approximate team strength ratings based on other sources. So we lean heavily on SP Plus, Bill Connolly's FCS SP Plus. Also do some other, add some other sources in there as well who follow the FCS level very closely. So these we don't do any official projections. We don't record these for our official record or winning percentage against the spread. But just for our own purposes, we did want to do a little bit better than just a generic rating for an FCS opponent. And this matchup is a big reason why, because you've got a team in New Mexico with a new head coach. I do think that Brocco Mendenhall is a great fit for the Lobos and will put that program in a better position to succeed long term. But game one of year one, and you draw a really tough opponent. Montana State, as I said, number 3 in our FCS rankings. New Mexico, number 128 in our FBS team strength ratings. It's going to be a very, very tough matchup. Currently, the odds makers have the Bobcats favored by 13.5. The total is 54.5. We actually do have New Mexico projected to cover in all 3 models. So it's currently our team strength model has Montana State favored by 11.25 points. Our Talent Edge model has it a little closer to a touchdown, 7.3 points. Our PrSM model has MSU at 10.24. So all 3 would agree on New Mexico here, but again, that is not an official projection. Whether it's right or wrong, we are not going to count it. We're also slightly over the 54.5. Actually, there's a little bit more room there, maybe not slightly over. We have it closer to 60 at 59.74. So curious to certainly see how that matchup plays out. It's pretty rare for FCS opponents to beat FBS opponents. It's even more rare for them to be double-digit favorites. So this is a fairly unique matchup, and be curious to see how it shakes out. There is some news that Montana State's top running back will be out this game, so not expected to be a huge shift one way or the other based on that news, but want to see how this new era of New Mexico football looks, and if the Lobos can maybe surprise a little bit in a difficult situation. SMU, number 15 in our team strength power ratings, takes on Nevada. The Mustangs are 24.5-point favorites in Reno. The total is 55.5. Perhaps shouldn't be a surprise based on how high our projections are on SMU. We have the Mustangs expected to cover, and that is again maybe a little bit of a surprise early on in the season for our projections to be as high on a team to cover more than 3 touchdowns, but it's not even close. We have SMU projected to win this game by 30.16 points. The other 2 models are a little bit different, though. So we are on Nevada to cover based on our Talent Edge projections, which is right around 21 points. And our PrSM model has SMU favored by 23.1. So all 3 do not agree on this one. Our team strength model, which we focus on the most, put the most pieces of the puzzle in there on that one. That one's on SMU to cover, but looking only at the roster information, see a little bit closer Nevada to cover, and looking only at the stats on the field, have SMU not quite expected to get over that 24.5. We are once again over the 55.5. We've got 58.06 in our projected total there. The final game featuring an FBS team is Delaware State, which got a late start on its travel plans to Hawaii. There was a mishap with a bus. And of course, it's, I think, a 10.5-hour flight from the East Coast of the United States out to Honolulu. So a really, really difficult travel situation for Delaware State in normal circumstances, but missing that first flight just made it that much more difficult, I'm sure. We've got Hawaii as a big favorite, in part because Delaware State ranks 122nd in our FCS ratings. Hawaii, we have expected to cover the 40 that is posted currently by the odds makers. Our projection is 47.9. The Talent Edge model sees an even bigger gap, has Hawaii favored by 51.9. The Prism model sees it a little bit closer, has the Hornets covering, but Hawaii still favored by nearly 39 points in that one. We do have a projected under. 54.4 is our projection there. But again, like the Montana State, and New Mexico matchup, we do not keep right or wrong. However this shakes out, this doesn't go into our official record for this projection in these matchups. On that note, we also are able to make FCS projections for FCS games. We have not set up the same sort of automatic system of doing it. So most weeks probably not going to have the time to go through and manually make these projections. But with week 0, with only 4 games featuring FBS opponents and with only 3 others of FCS versus FCS matchups, we did go ahead and make these projections. I'll put these in the Campus to Canton Discord, the C2C Winning Edge tier in our team projection section. I'll put these numbers in there for our members there, all 22 in C2C Winning Edge. But right now, based on our team strength ratings, we do have all 3 favorites expected to cover. So Tarleton is a 17.5 point favorite over McNeese. We've got Tarleton projected to cover at 19.5. Southeast Missouri State is a 7.5 point favorite over North Alabama. Our projections are closer to 2 touchdowns there. We've got SEMO, Southeastern Missouri, and I'm not as well versed in FCS names or anything, so my apologies if I call a team the wrong thing. But we've got Southeast Missouri State projected by 12.5 points. FAMU, Florida A&M, takes on Norfolk State, and the Rattlers are 15.5 point favorites on the road. Our projections have FAMU at 25.7, so definitely see a little bit more room there. But again, our FCS projections, we approximate based on other people's information. So not only are they not official for any record-keeping purposes, they're really just for informational, our best guess. I don't put a whole lot of stock in these projections, but have had some people ask me about them. So did want to mention that we've got all 3 favorites expected to cover there. How about some stat projection discussion? So I live in Vermont, and we do have sports betting is fairly newly legal, but there's some issues, I suppose, with college football specific information, and for whatever reason, Prize Picks, the lines don't even show up for me. So I am able to access things on the other FanDuel and DraftKings and what have you to get our point spreads and all of that. That's not hard to find, but for whatever reason, Prize Picks is difficult for me. So I rely on our CFF team and our Slack. They'll take some screenshots and give me the numbers so that I can see if there are a few that differ based on our stat projections and our week 0 stat projections. I do have to say, ran out of time this preseason to fully get our sort of opponent based projections to go into effect early on. So these are just the per game projections based on our season long stat projections. So do keep that in mind as well. And these are, as I've said before, based entirely on a 3-year window of each team, head coach, and play caller. Try to remove my opinion from the equation as much as possible. There are some other really, really smart folks out there, including members of the Campus to Canton team, who are able to add additional analysis and context to these numbers. Chris Moxley is very active in the Discord with these. Chris K, the great work that he does. Active. Jared Pongren as well is often able to put out his projections. Ethan Sowers, he and Chris K talk a lot about DFS and those things. Outside the C2C family, friend of the company, Eric Froton is one of the kings of player props. Absolutely. So those guys are going to be able to give you a little bit more, opinion-based information and context. We do make adjustments through the course of the season on projected workload, but early on, we just kind of let the history, that 3-year window, lead us overwhelmingly. We will make the occasional adjustment, especially at the quarterback position if we know somebody is expected to be a full-time starter, but in years past, maybe there have been some injuries at that position. Long-winded, I'm sure, but what I'm trying to get the point across is we try to take a just purely, this is what the numbers say based on history, add your own context, make some adjustments, based on what and what you're able to add to our projections. But as those stand, the 4 passing yards, quarterbacks who have passing yards listed as of this morning at Prize Picks: DJ Uiagalelei at Florida State, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, Preston Stone at SMU, and Brandon Lewis from Nevada. Our projections are on the over for King, Stone, and Lewis. We are on the under for DJ Uiagalelei. So DJU, his what was posted was 232.5 yards. Our CFB Winning Edge, prorated or whatever the right word is, season-long projection, so broken down into per game, we have him at 211.5. I did, while trying to work a little bit on opponent adjustments, but just before I ran out of time, that actually lowered DJU's passing numbers by about 5 yards. So I think if I were to say, is there one of these that our projections maybe I trust a little bit more, it might be that DJU under. Even though Georgia Tech really, really struggled defensively last season, according to the numbers, not just taking the season-long projections for the Florida State starting quarterback, but also taking into account recent history on the defensive side for Georgia Tech. It seems like we're going to be, about 25 yards or so under that Prize Picks number there. We are a bit higher on Haynes King. His projection, based, adjusting for opponent, was about 5 yards lower as well, but we currently have him projected for over 220 passing yards. We have Preston Stone expected to go over. We've got him closer to 280 yards. And then Brandon Lewis, I know this one has gotten a little bit of, we're not the only ones that are, maybe a little skeptical of this, because Brandon Lewis definitely more, known for his running ability. Also, Nevada is a big underdog. There's some concern, would he really actually be able to go over that 144.5? But our projections, and it seems like a lot of others out there, smart people, seem to be on the over for Brandon Lewis as well. But we've got him projected for 186. That seems a little high, I'll be honest. But Lewis has been named the starter. Not expected that we're going to see AJ Bianco, his top backup. Chuba Purdy apparently is out for this game, so he doesn't seem to be a threat. And, the general thought for big underdogs is that, they're going to have to pass a lot. Nevada definitely is stronger at the running back position than quarterback wide receiver, so keep that in mind. But our projections, and we're not the only ones, seem to be on Brandon Lewis to go over 186.3. There are some rushing numbers as well. Most of our projections are within 5 yards one way or the other on all these players. The difference, the biggest difference for us, Sean Dollars, Nevada running back, listed on PrizePicks as 35.5 yards. We have him going over 75. So we have a 40-yard difference there. Again, I'm not saying, lock it up that Dollars is going to absolutely blow past that number. One, SMU defensively is going to be a very, very tough opponent. Dollars was injured in the spring. Seems like he's back and fully healthy, listed as the starter on the official depth chart. We, for a while, had Ashton Hayes actually projected as the starter at running back based on a lot of real positive news coming out of fall camp. But a little bit of a surprise and maybe misreading on my end to start. But a lot of that positive news centered on Hayes' ability both as a runner and a receiver. Well, he's actually listed as a number 2 wide receiver, the A position on that Nevada official depth chart. So we made just a switch there. Dollars is the top running back. Savion Red listed as running back number 2. Nevada added Pat Garwo III as a transfer coming in, though he's injured, not on the depth chart, not sure that he's expected to play. Destin Hawkins as well. Kai Woods also, like Savion Red, a transfer from Texas. Caleb Ramseur is actually listed on the depth chart as the number 3 running back. So long way of saying Dollars, even though he's number 1, and even though our history-based stat projections expect him to get a fairly heavy workload, our overall projections may be a little bit rosy on Dollars' expectations here. So we do see a fairly large projected edge there, but again, not an overwhelming amount of confidence on my end specifically. But numbers-wise, as of right now, if you're trying to build your PrizePicks sheet here, I might be, if I were doing it, I might be willing to go with DJU under, Brandon Lewis over, and then Sean Dollars over. As far as receiving numbers go, similar, a lot of these projected within 5-6 yards. We do have Malik Benson projected to go about 6 yards under his 60.5. Romello Brinson at SMU projected to go over 35.5. We have him projected to go over that by about 6 yards. But there are 3 where we've got a difference of 9 yards or more. So these might get me, might look to add these into the mix as well. Ja'Kai Douglas, PrizePicks has him listed as 36.5 yards. We have Douglas listed as our number 2 Florida State wide receiver, and have that position expected to go for 45.6 yards. RJ Maryland, the tight end at SMU, one of the best tight ends in the country, has a line there at PrizePicks of 47.5. We are a good bit under that. We have Maryland projected for 35.9 yards, so a difference of 11.5 there. And then the one that I think feel the best about, we actually have Jake Bailey as our projected top target, wide receiver 1 at SMU. It's a crowded wide receiver room. Bailey is a starter in the slot position, I believe, alongside Romello Brinson and Keyshawn Smith are the projected top 3 wideouts. So if you're looking at that Jordan Hudson number, keep that in mind. He's right now listed as a second-team wide receiver alongside Moochie Dixon and Roderick Daniels Jr. Our projections, because of where we have Bailey slotted in, have him expected to go over by about 19.5 yards. So PrizePicks has him listed at 39.5 receiving yards. We have him at 59. So they're a difference of 19.5. So if I were eligible, which I am not, and wanted to put a PrizePick package or whatever they call it together, it would probably be DJU under passing yards, Brendan Lewis over passing yards, Sean Dollars over passing yards, and Jake Bailey over receiving yards. I'd be tempted to throw the Douglas over and the Maryland under in there as well, maybe mix and match. But other things out there, touchdowns and all of that, those names I mentioned before, those are probably going to be your better sources. But if you are a C2C Winning Edge or all 22 tier member and want to see how our projections shake out specifically, player by player, position by position, hopefully you'll find a little bit of, maybe it'll help confirm something or give you something else to think about with ours that, again, try to remove opinion from it as much as possible. So that, I think, is going to do it for us today. Week 0 kicks off tomorrow. We are back. We made it, right? So actual college football on the field tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us for 85 episodes this preseason. A lot of spring camp news, a lot of team reviews or previews, a lot of fall camp injury talk and who's going to be the starting quarterback. Thank you so much for joining us for this. We are going to continue. We're going to do, game previews and reviews, other news and injury updates and all of that during the season. So as of right now, our schedule is going to be the same: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That Monday show most likely going to be sort of a recap of the weekend, talk about some important news. Wednesday, we'll discuss our projections, most likely. Our projection will have come out on the Campus to Canton Discord on Tuesday. So if you want them right when they're available, you will, of course, want to be a C2C Winning Edge or all 22 tier member. And our projections are there all the time in our team profiles as well. So you can get them as early as, when that last game is done on Saturday night, Sunday morning. They're there for the next week. We just adjust, injuries and other depth chart stuff throughout the course of the week. And then, we'll discuss that on Wednesdays here. And then Friday, I'm not sure what it's going to look like. Maybe more of the prize picks type stuff if I'm not too annoying asking for screenshots from my friends and colleagues at Campus to Canton. That probably gets a little annoying. So thanks for your patience if you're helping me with those. Chris K this morning got these numbers for me. So thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. But hey, hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the start of the 2024 college football season. Thank you so much for giving this video a like, subscribing to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. And then especially if you are a member of CampusToCanton.com, where you can join for as little as $2.99 per month, or go all the way up, try our all 22 or C2C Winning Edge tiers, get access to all this information as much as you want it. And we're excited to start the season. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you Monday. Take care.